Greetings all, Mr. Wahlberg here, talking about frequency with you, starting a new idea with graphing and data collecting, how you can show that in types of tables and graphs to represent data. Starting with frequency here, as it says, frequency is how often an event occurs, how frequently you do something. You can put that in a table. There's an example here at the bottom. Prime example, it says school attendance, number of days that kids miss each day. Just a simple data table, frequency table showing something like that. Other examples of showing different things happening. A line plot, as it says, graph showing data by x's of each data value. If you look at a test, let's say it was out of 50 points, the number of students that got a 50. Number of students that got 30 right out of 50, and obviously in between. Very similar to that is a histogram, also known as basically a bar graph. Frequency going up and down on the graph, miles per gallon here on the bottom. Something like miles per gallon. How many cars get that? 15 cars get between 5 and 10 miles per gallon. You jump all the way up between 15 and 20 miles a gallon, there are 35 cars, and so on. Just another example of how you can put data into some kind of a chart or graph. Okay, here we are now making a frequency table. Obviously, you can see all the data here. It talks about the number below represents the ages of the students in a karate class. Make a frequency table of the data. So, how do you go about doing this? You have to look at each number. I've already set the table up for you. Here's obviously number 5. How many times can you find 5 on here? Obviously there's only one time, so my tally for 5 is obviously only 1. So frequency for the number 5 is 1. Moving on to 6. I've got 1 6 here. I've got 2 6s there, so my tally is 2, and obviously the frequency then is 2. Number 7. There's a 7. There's a 7. Again, it looks like 2. So I'm going to have a tally of 2, and I'm going to call it a frequency of 2. 8, there's an 8, there's an 8, there's an 8. So I've got 3, so I'm going to tally of 3, and I'm going to write 3 for my frequency. 9, 1, 2, 3, looks like 3, so I would write, or excuse me, I'd tally up 3, and I'd write a frequency of 3. Moving on to 10, here's my 10. Here's my 10. Looks like just 2 for that. So 2 students came for karate there. I would say the frequency is 2. 11. There's an 11. There's an 11. There's an 11. There's an 11. So tally of 4, making a frequency of 4. 12. There's a 12. And there's a 12. There's another 12. So we got 3. And last, 13, there's a 13, there's a 13. I've got a tally of 2, making a frequency of 2. Okay, now, taking the same type of data that we used in the last slide on karate class, the age of students, same thing, but this time I'm going to make a line plot. Instead of the basic frequency table you just made, now we go back to line plots, which was basically putting X's up you go. If you don't remember what that is, go back to earlier in the video and watch that again. I'm not going to have you watch me count again, so I'm just going to go through this here. We just did this on the last slide. 5, there was 1 student that was 5 years old, whereas the 6-year-old we had 2, so we'd put 2 X's this time. The 7-year-old was 2 as well, so we'd put 2 X's. The 8 was 3, so we'd have 3 X's this time. The 9-year-old is 3 as well, so we'd have 3 X's. The 10-year-old was 2. The 11-year-old was 4. This was the most. The 12-year-old was 3. And the 13-year-old was 2. So what is the advantage of using a line plot? Well, you can very easily see, okay, 5 is the least amount of students, whereas 11 is the most, and obviously 8, 9, and 12 you can see is very high, right across here, whereas this is very low. So it's just a way to represent data in which you can easily see the number of students you have based on being high or low. Last thing with this section, you're actually going to do it yourself. Make a practice problem that is due tomorrow. If you watched earlier, you should know about what are called histograms, basically a bar graph. If you don't remember what that is, go back and look at that again. We did this in class the other day with circle graphs, the number of students getting a certain grade, 3, 5, 12, 3, and 2. I'd like you to make a bar graph, a histogram of that, and that's due tomorrow. Hope you are having a better time watching this. If you have questions, feel free to bring them to class, and hopefully you've learned something watching the video. Have a good day.